All right, so in this video, we're gonna be showing you guys how we would install a downspout completely from new. So we're gonna be cutting, measuring, as well as installing the downspout. We have here 3 A elbows and then 1 B. Most downspouts won't use a B elbow. It usually uses 3 A's. It uses 1 at the first extension piece, 1 where it connects from the eave to the wall, and then 1 where it connects the bottom extension piece to get the water away from the foundation. So we're gonna go ahead and measure out the gutter and the downspout so we know where the outlet goes, and then we're gonna go ahead and measure the downspout measurements, cut this up, and then install it. So let's get into it. All right, so now that we are at the downspout, we have our outlet here. We had just put this in from our run. And like I said, whenever you do this, you gotta make sure that you are at least 3 to 4 inches away from the wall. We wanna try to keep these consistent with the outlets. And we're about probably 16 inches away from the end cap. And we wanna make sure that this is far enough in, because if we put it here, we won't have a wall to attach this downspout to. We have our A elbow here, and we have another A elbow. So the first step that we're gonna do, we can't just put the downspout straight to the ground. So we have to connect it from here to this wall, covering past this entire eave. And what that's gonna look like is we're gonna take so we have our 1 downspout elbow here. This is an A, and you can see that it's crimped on this side, and it's not crimped. So we're gonna take our non-crimped side and set it down on the outlet. Now, it should stay like that when you place it on there when you're measuring these, but if it falls off, just grab it. And then we're gonna place our next one in line to where you think that this would fit. So for example, if we put this here, you can see that there's probably about a 5 to 6 inch gap here, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're going to take our tape measure like so, all right? And we're going to actually measure the distance between the two. So we're gonna set this down like it should, all right? And we're gonna take our tape measure, and we see, okay, it's exactly 5 inches, all right? So hypothetically, we would cut this 5 inches, but in this case we wouldn't, because if we cut it 5 inches, there's gonna be no room for this to overlap on either side. So we're gonna add 1.5 inches. Whenever you guys do these downspouts, add 1 inch to 1.5 inches of whatever you're measuring. That way you have room for it to slip inside of the next one. So we know that this piece is, if it's 5, we're gonna cut it at 6 1/4 or 6.5, this piece. And then we're gonna take, holding this and holding it in the same position, we're gonna take our downspout, our elbow right here, our A elbow, and we're gonna mark the wall. So we're gonna give it a quick little line like that. And if we hold it back up here, it's still in line, yep. Hold it here, all right? So now that we know our line is here, now we're gonna take our tape measure again, and we're gonna measure the distance to the ground where we're putting this downspout. So we're gonna go down here. You can see I'm touching where the downspout needs to be, all right? And then we're gonna go back up here to our point where we just marked. So we can see that it's 86 inches, all right? So we have a 6.5, and then we have an 86 inch run. We can also see that this goes down inside of this tube. So we're gonna add an extra 3 or 4 inches just so that way we can assure that it sits in there properly and we don't have any issues. All right, so let's head back to the saw and let's cut these pieces up. All right, so now that we're back at our saw here, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna measure these 2 measurements. So we have one at 6.5, and we have the other one at 86 plus 4, so we have 90. So we're gonna go ahead and measure the long one first. So we're gonna take our tape here with this wide end, and we're gonna place it down here on the end of the downspout. We're gonna run this out 90, all right? Take our pencil, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna mark it here, all right? It doesn't need to be perfect, but mark it there, okay? And then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna open up our saw. So open it up. And there's videos on how to operate the saw completely A through Z if you are having trouble with it. And then if you want to come over here, we're going to show you that we have our line lined up exactly with where the cut's going to be made. So we're going to hold our saw open like so, and we're going to release our safety trigger. So we made our first cut. So now we have this 90 inch piece. We're gonna set this to the side, and then we're gonna make our 6.5 inch piece. All right, so we're going to take our tape measure again and run this 6.5. All right, run it out, mark it, and then same thing, we're going to make sure this is lined up here, hold it tight, making sure that we're keeping the downspout tight to the back of these two panels, because what's going to happen is if we move it around a lot, we're going to get an uneven cut. It's going to fly everywhere. We're going to cut our finger. So make sure that you're holding this tight to the side. All right, and then we're going to set this piece to the side. And now we have our two. So we have our 6.5 and we have our 90. So let's head back over to the downspout and install this. Now that we're back at our downspout outlet, we're going to go ahead and we're going to build this. So we can see here that we have our A elbow. And again, we have two ends. We have an open end and we have a crimped end. So it is very important that when we attach this to the outlet, we have our crimped end facing the wall. Whenever we have a higher point, you want to make sure that the crimped end is going in to the next piece, because if it goes on the outside of it, the water is going to leak through. So whenever you have a higher piece, make sure it goes inside of the lower piece. Also, you can see here we have a seam on one side, so we need to make sure that this seam is hidden as many times as possible. So in this case, we're going to have the seam go up, and then we're going to have the seam on the back of this facing the wall so you don't see it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to place this back on here like that. Actually, before we do that, we're going to place this crimped end inside of this, making sure that we line up these seams. All right, so just slip this in like that. All right, and we have our piece attached now. Making sure, again, it's inside of the next slip. Attach this to your outlet, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to make sure this fits. So it looks like it's going to be pretty good. So we'll go ahead and attach this on. And again, this piece needs to go inside of this one. All right. And the reason for that, like I said, is because we need to make sure that the water doesn't leak out of the gutter and it flows all the way through the downspout. Because if it doesn't, there's no point in having a downspout there. We're going to take our crimping tools here and we're going to open them up, and we're going to place these in the corner of the downspout like this inside of our piece. All right, and we're just going to crimp these ends down like this. That way we can try to make this piece a little bit smaller to give it an easier fit. All right, so take these, hit all four of them, all four corners. You can see that this piece has smallered up a lot bit now. So we'll place these back in here, and we're going to connect this piece now. Let's see if it fits. All right, so we have to play with it a little bit. All right, but you can see that that piece fits on there pretty nicely. So you can see we have our A elbow running into our connection piece, and we have our connection piece running into our second A elbow. So we're going to attach this on there, and that looks pretty good to me. We got a downward slope. It's attached. It's going to sit properly. So let's go ahead and we're going to attach this downspout, and then we will put the straps in the wall and connect this thing and get it started. All right, so now that we have our connection piece here to meet from our gutter to our wall and cross the eave, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add in this downspout. So you can see here we have the opened end, and then the crimped end is down here. All right, so, and then again, this end is already crimped, so it's already ready to go. We're going to go ahead and we're going to place this inside of the downspout like that. Push it in. Make sure it's got a nice tight fit. Make sure everything else is tight. And then we're going to take the bottom of this and we're going to set it inside of our corrugated pipe. And then we're going to run it back up here, and we're going to see, okay, does this fit? Yep, looks good. Our downspout reaches all the way down there to our pipe, and everything else looks good. So now that we know it's ready to be placed up, we're going to go ahead and add our straps in, one here and one in the bottom, and then we're going to zip screw all of this together, and that'll be the completion of it. All right, so now that we have our downspout completely made and ready to go and be attached, we have our downspout straps, or pipe bands as some people call them here. We're going to go ahead, and before we put the downspout on, we have to attach these pipe bands. The way we do that is we have to drill 2 holes into this brick miter here. Right here we have our hammer drill. Make sure it's set to our hammer setting, and then we have our masonry bit attached to here. So we're going to go ahead, and if we take our downspout and we line it back up with where it's supposed to go, all right, we can see that tuck it back in here. We can see that this lines up right here. So our first strap, we're gonna wanna make it about 4 to 5 inches below where that first elbow is. So we're gonna wanna put it about here or so. And then we're gonna put our second one, same thing. We're gonna wanna put it about a foot from the bottom, just so it can have a secure point in the top as well as the bottom. You don't really need one in the middle unless you have 2 sections. Usually wanna add 2 straps per 10 feet, so 1 every 5 feet or so. So now that we know that this fits, we're gonna put one here, and we're gonna put one at about that 4th miter line in the brick. So I'll go ahead and we'll set this down right here, out of the way. And we know that our first one is gonna be about right here or so. So we'll go ahead and all right, so now we have our first drill. And then we're gonna head down here, making sure that we stay aligned with this outlet the entire time. So we see that it's on this line, it's a little bit right of this line. So we're gonna follow this down. We're gonna head down here until we see a good point. And we're gonna put our screw or our drill in here. All right, so now that we have our first and our second hole drilled, let me move this for you guys. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna add in our molly to this wall. We call it a molly, some people call it a wall anchor, whatever you want. So make sure this is cleared out. We're gonna pop our molly in there. And if it has trouble fitting, that means that you probably need to get a little bit more out. So get a little bit more space out, grab your molly, pop it back in there. It fits good. All right, and then we're gonna head up here. And if it doesn't fit, take your bit, make it a little bit bigger, pop that in there. Now we're gonna go ahead and add these 2 straps on. All right, so now that we have our mollies in place, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna add our 2 straps. We're gonna be using our impact drill here with our Phillips bit, and we have our regular 1-inch wall screw here. To start these off, you wanna make sure that you have the white facing the wall, so that way when it wraps around, when we bend this, the white is what's being showed. All right, it also has a little indent here on where the middle point is. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna place our screw in that middle point, and without putting it in the actual anchor spot yet, so instead of putting it right here where the molly goes, we're just gonna pre-drill it right here. Make sure that we break through that point, all right? That way we have our point sticking out so we can line this up with the molly properly. So we're gonna go ahead and put this in there, take our screw, drill that in, and now you can see that this is attached and not going anywhere. So we have one in. Let's go ahead and put this bottom one in now. You're gonna take your screw and you're gonna insert it into this point right here. Place it on the wall. Give it a good screw. See that it pops through like that. And now we're gonna line this up with our molly or our wall anchor down here. Give it a good screw. Make sure you hold this in place because it'll try to spin on you. Hold this in place, drill that in, and now we have both of our straps attached. So we have one here and one down here. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna add our downspout in. All right, so now that we have our straps in place, 1 and 2, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna connect this downspout. So first thing we're gonna do, take our drill and we're gonna switch from our Phillips bit to our hex bit, all right, like that. And we're gonna take 2 zip screws, all right? And I'm using black for this video so you guys can see a little bit better on where I'm actually placing these. We're gonna place 2 zip screws on this initial outlet. So our first one is gonna go right here. So we're gonna put our downspout up there, make sure everything's lined up. Our first one is gonna go on this right side. So I know you guys can't see this from where you're at, but it's gonna go on this right side of the outlet, like that. Make sure that you're grabbing the actual inside metal and the outlet, because sometimes you won't and you'll think that you're screwed in and it'll pop off. Then we're gonna take our second screw and we're gonna put on the exact opposite side right here. And you guys can see that when I did that, this downspout actually came off. So the reason for that is because we haven't put the zip screws in yet. Usually I like to wait until we're done. That way if there's any mistakes that are made, you don't have a bunch of random holes in the gutter. So now that we know that this lines up good and it's gonna fit down there, we're gonna go ahead and actually, I'm gonna take this off so I can put this in there again. All right, attach this back to where it should be. All right, like so. And now we're gonna add in a zip screw to hold this in place a little bit better. So we're gonna put one, same thing as the other side, we're gonna put one here to hold these connection pieces together. Same thing on the opposite side. Same thing as this, putting it there. And then we're gonna take another zip screw, put it on this one. All right, like so. And then one more, opposite side. And then our last one, our last two are gonna go right here. So we have one here. All right, and then we have another one on this opposite side. All right, and the reason why we put them on the sides and not the bottom or the tops is because if we put a hole here or a screw, when the water comes down, it's gonna drip out of that point. So we put them here. The water has, you know, a good inch and a half of that level where it can flow down. So it's not gonna get, the water's not gonna leak out from the screw points. So now we have all of our zip screws in place and this is on there sturdy. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna attach these straps. So first thing we're gonna do is make sure that we have this downspout straight with the wall. So make sure it's lined up completely straight. All right, and then we're gonna take our straps and we're gonna fold our first one over the gutter. All right, over the downspout. Take our second one, fold it over like that. So we wanna make sure that they overlap at some point, all right? And then we're gonna take our zip screw, okay? And, dropped it. Take our zip screw and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna attach this strap. So same thing, we're gonna push up, make sure that this is crossed. Take our screw, add it in there, and now we can see that this is secured and it's not gonna move anywhere, all right? And then we're gonna head down here to our last strap. Same thing with this one. Make sure that this is lined up good. Take our first strap, put it over the face of the gutter, or the downspout. Second, go over here. Then we're gonna add our screw again in the middle right here, making sure that we grab this point and this point so it's actually secure. Now we can give this a shake and we can see that, look, this isn't going anywhere. This is secured. We have wall anchors in there, 2 straps. We have zip screws on every point of the elbow and it reaches down to the corrugated piping. So